Red Bull's pit stops were once Formula One's benchmark in every way. But since a recent FIA technical directive came into force, there's one key area that Red Bull's pit stops have actually become the worst of any team. Before we go any further, we need to stress some context. Red Bull will undoubtedly continue to post some of the fastest pit stop times of the season, because when the team gets it right, it can still change four wheels quicker than anyone else. But as we'll explain throughout this video, its consistency has taken a surprisingly big hit. Not only has it briefly become F1's worst team on average, but it's posting numbers that are miles worse than Red Bull has managed over the previous 2.5 years. So stick with us, because this is an interesting setback in Red Bull's F1 title bid, and it has left the team genuinely frustrated. Red Bull has been the undisputed champion of the F1 pit stop. After the Russian Grand Prix, Red Bull still had 9 of the 10 fastest stops in 2021, and 5 of them were under 2 seconds. F1 pit stops are tracked by DHL and used to create a pit stop ranking based on the F1 point scoring system. The fastest pit stops in each race are rewarded with points, with teams able to score points for each driver's quickest pit stop of the race. You won't be surprised to learn, based on the above, that Red Bull is leading that ranking again in 2021, having won it the past 2 years. This superiority has been a result of Red Bull's mastery of both the human and technological elements that have become a priority again since refueling was banned in 2010. Until then, it didn't matter if there was some slack in the wheel change process, because changing 4 tyres wasn't the limiting factor in how fast the pit stop was. But since refueling disappeared in 2010, pit stops have developed into a true art form. Driver precision and the choreography of the mechanics have become ever more refined, but serious hardware and software developments are at the heart of the improvements we've seen over the past decade. That includes the use of intelligent wheel guns. These automatically check whether the wheel is secure before the gun can be released. They have a button which the operative presses after the wheel nut is secure, giving a signal to permit the jack to be lowered. But it was possible and became common practice for the button to be pressed early in anticipation of the nut being tightened. That increased the likelihood of a car being released without a wheel being properly fastened. So to reduce the risk associated with the sub 2 second turnarounds that have become possible in the era of the ultra-fast pit stop, the FIA implemented a new requirement from the Belgian Grand Prix. The technical directive enforced at Spa stipulates that this jack release button can no longer be pressed before the wheel nut tighten signal is given, and must only be pressed in reaction to that signal. The gun operator also can't just hold the button down while the process is completed. So this works exactly like a driver activating the DRS system in the car. Press it too soon and nothing will happen. The new directive was originally going to be even stricter, with a stipulation that there must be at least 0.2 seconds between the jack release and the green light being shown to the driver. But even in its toned down form, it still had an impact. And with Red Bull having established itself as F1's quickest and most consistent team at pit stops, it considered the new directive to be an attempt to slow it down. Because of the farcical Belgian Grand Prix, there have only been 3 races with the new directive in place, which makes the sample set of data to judge its impact fairly limited. So this is not to say that Red Bull's suddenly terrible at pit stops or condemned to be at a low level for the rest of this season. But the early trend is clear. All but 3 teams have slower average pit stop times since the summer break, with AlphaTauri, Ferrari and Alpine the only teams to be marginally better, according to the aforementioned data compiled by DHL. Unsurprisingly, the fastest pit stop times post-technical directive have slipped slightly, but they are still impressive. Red Bull has proven itself capable of extremely fast pit stops, so it's still the benchmark in this regard, as it had the quickest time of anyone at Zandvoort and the second best at Monza and Sochi. What's concerning for Red Bull is the consistency of its pit stops has dropped dramatically. The ultra-fast turnarounds it could pull off in the past were impressive, but the error rate was even more remarkable. Red Bull had an average pit stop time of just 2.58 seconds up to and including the Hungarian Grand Prix. In fact, its average pit stop time in 2019 was 2.55 seconds, and in 2020 it was 2.41. That's an astonishing level of consistency. But its average pit stop time over the 3 Grand Prix since the 2021 summer break is now 2 seconds slower than it was before. and at 4.56 seconds, Red Bull has the worst average of all 10 teams since the directive came into force. That's because of the problems that caused slow stops for Verstappen in Italy and Perez in Russia. Red Bull's 2.02 second increase in average pit stop times is also considerably worse than the next biggest rise, which is Haas at 0.91 seconds. If you weren't already thinking it, by now you might be saying to yourself, yeah, but come on, you can't draw any firm conclusion from 3 races. There is some truth to that, and unless Red Bull suffers more dramatically poor pit stops over the rest of the season, it will probably start to balance out, and Red Bull will get closer to its impressive pre-summer break average. But there are 2 things proved within this small sample set of data. The first is that the new directive has wrecked at least one Red Bull pit stop directly. Red Bull admitted the Verstappen problem at Monza, which sent him on a collision course with title rival Lewis Hamilton, was human error and a result of the new technical directive. Perez's issue in Russia was apparently not a result of the directive, as there was simply a slight delay in the wheel coming off, and then Perez released the clutch too early while the car was still raised up. But would that mistake have happened when the pit stop was a completely slick and perfected operation before the procedures were tampered with? Anyway, the second point is these bad pit stops are clear anomalies in Red Bull's recent history. It's not just that there's been one bad pit stop that skewed the data, it's that Red Bull hasn't had multiple pit stops this bad before. Red Bull's average pit stop time has been more than 4 seconds in 2 of the last 3 events, and that hasn't happened over the last 2.5 seasons. Here's every Red Bull pit stop average from 2019, 2020 and 2021 prior to the technical directive. So yes, the sample set is small at the moment, but if you compare it to the massive sample set before the new technical directive, you see that these numbers aren't just rare, they're unprecedented. Given there was a prior probability that F1's slickest pit crew would be affected by this change, it's less likely that this is just noise in the data. So we can tentatively conclude that it isn't just coincidence, which is exactly why Red Bull team boss Christian Horner said it was annoying to have had protocols changed mid-season. It's clear that Red Bull has suffered an unfortunate setback, even if it is only a brief one. The fact it now has the worst average of any team since the new technical directive came into play is probably little more than an extreme and interesting statistical anomaly. But what it says about Red Bull is absolutely valid, because the team has an issue to get under control in an area that it previously had a clear advantage. What do you think about the technical directive being enforced and the impact it appears to have had on Red Bull's performance? And do you think it could become a defining element in the title run-in, or do you expect Red Bull to get back on top of things very quickly? Join the debate and let us know in the comments below. Give this video the thumbs up if you enjoyed our explanation, and make sure to hit subscribe if you haven't already to join us again for more videos in the future.